Hey there, Cowboys Nation. Welcome to Dallas Cowboys Fan, your ultimate destination for all things America's team. Whether you bleed blue and silver or are just starting to catch Cowboys fever, this is the place. If you are a die-hard fan, please make sure to subscribe for more latest news and updates of your favorite team. Today, we're diving deep into one of the hottest topics in the NFL right now: the aftermath of the Dallas Cowboys' recent painful loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. This game wasn't just a regular matchup, it was intense, with both teams fighting for control in the NFC East, and all eyes were on the Cowboys to see if they could bring the heat. Sadly, for Cowboys fans, it didn't turn out the way they'd hoped. So, what went wrong? And more importantly, what did Dallas head coach Mike McCarthy have to say about it? Now, let's break down what McCarthy shared after this tough game. First off, for a coach, losses like these aren't just games, they're statements. Coaches feel the weight of every player, every play, every fan out there. McCarthy's always been one to approach things pretty level-headed, but in this press conference, you could sense the frustration. He acknowledged right away that this wasn't the result they wanted, nor the performance the team aimed for. And that's putting it lightly. The Cowboys had every reason to believe they could make a real statement against the Eagles, but in the end, the mistakes piled up faster than they could handle. The conversation inevitably shifted to what went wrong on offense. The Cowboys came into this game looking ready to attack, but there were missed opportunities and drives that just couldn't get the finish they needed. McCarthy highlighted the struggles in the red zone as a major factor in the loss. It's like, for some reason, they just couldn't get it together when it really mattered. If you're a Cowboys fan, that's the most frustrating thing to watch. They'd push all the way up the field, but then come up short right when a touchdown was within reach. McCarthy didn't shy away from acknowledging this. He knows that to win games, especially against teams like the Eagles, you've got to finish strong in the red zone. Then, we have to talk about the penalties. McCarthy brought up the discipline issues on the field. The Cowboys have struggled with penalties all season, and this game was no different. Critical penalties, especially in key moments, were real momentum killers. Think about it, the Cowboys would have some big plays only to have them nullified by flags. McCarthy pointed out that it's not just about physical mistakes. It's about mental toughness and discipline. He made it clear that if they're going to compete with the best in the NFL, they've got to cut down on these errors. Every coach says this, but with McCarthy, you could tell that he's frustrated because he knows these mistakes are avoidable. Discipline is something he's going to have to drill into the team moving forward if they want any shot at taking the division. McCarthy also reflected on the defensive side of things. The Cowboys' defense has been praised all season, with playmakers like Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs stepping up to make big plays, but against the Eagles, they looked vulnerable. McCarthy pointed out that, while they had their moments, the Eagles' offense exposed some gaps in their defense. It wasn't all bad, there were some solid tackles and a few key plays, but overall, they couldn't keep up. McCarthy talked about the need for consistency. There were just too many instances where the Eagles managed to find open space, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Defense is about timing and coordination, and for whatever reason, they just didn't have it together in this game. And, of course, McCarthy didn't shy away from crediting the Eagles. He acknowledged they're a tough team to beat. But still, he emphasized that the Cowboys have to be better. Now, let's talk about the offensive line. This has been a point of concern for the Cowboys in the past, and in this game, it really showed. The Eagles' defense put a ton of pressure on Dak Prescott, and McCarthy mentioned that this constant pressure threw the Cowboys' rhythm off. It's one of those things that affects the whole offense. If your quarterback doesn't have time to make plays, it's hard to find any rhythm. McCarthy knows that protecting Dak is a top priority, and if the Cowboys are going to get back on track, they're going to have to shore up that offensive line. He didn't throw anyone under the bus, specifically, but it was clear that he's aware of the gaps in the line and that it's something the team needs to address immediately. It's a tough spot for a coach because you want to support your quarterback, but you also have to be real about what went wrong. McCarthy praised Dak's resilience and leadership, emphasizing that one game doesn't define a player, but he also knows that Prescott will be the first to look at his own performance critically. Dak's a competitor, and he'll want to come back stronger after this one. One thing McCarthy was clear about is that the Cowboys aren't going to let this loss define them. He emphasized that the season is far from over and there's still a lot of football left to play. That's true, but as fans, we know it's easier said than done. After a loss like this, it's hard not to feel deflated. But McCarthy's focus now is on keeping the team's morale up and making the necessary adjustments. He talked about the importance of learning from losses and moving forward. It's all about using the setback as fuel to drive improvement. The Cowboys have had some highs this season, and this loss, though tough, doesn't erase all of that. McCarthy stressed that this is a team that can bounce back, and as the head coach, it's his job to make sure they do. But here's the real question everyone's asking: is this loss a sign of deeper problems for the Cowboys? McCarthy didn't directly address any big picture issues, but from what he did say, you can tell there's a mix of frustration and determination. The Cowboys have the talent, they have the fan base, and they even have the wins to prove they can be competitive. But it's all about consistency now. McCarthy hinted that changes might be on the horizon, whether it's in strategy, discipline, or even how they approach high-pressure games like this. Cowboys fans know this feeling well. It's the sense that the team has what it takes, but just hasn't quite figured out how to put it all together when it matters most. And that's exactly what McCarthy is focused on. He wants to take this talented roster and turn them into a team that doesn't just win games, but wins the games that count. Looking ahead, McCarthy knows the Cowboys don't have an easy path forward. The NFC East is competitive, and teams like the Eagles aren't going to make it easy for Dallas. McCarthy's press conference wasn't just about explaining the loss, it was a subtle call to action. The Cowboys have to be better, plain and simple. They have to tighten up their game, reduce penalties, and protect the quarterback. And on top of that, they have to finish strong in those critical moments. If they can do that, they're still very much in the race. To wrap it up, McCarthy's comments were a blend of frustration, realism, and hope. He's a coach who understands the weight of expectations on this Cowboys team, and he's not shying away from it. It's clear he believes in the players, and he knows what they're capable of. But he also knows that the NFL is ruthless, and if they don't clean up these mistakes, they're going to keep facing the same heartbreak. All right, that's it for today's breakdown. If you're a Cowboys fan, I know it's tough to stay optimistic after games like this, but let's keep the faith. McCarthy's got his work cut out for him, but he's not backing down. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on what needs to change for Dallas to make a real playoff push.